Welcome back. Today, let us continue the heteronuclear interactions. In the last class, I introduced so many interaction parameters as far as the heteronuclear are concerned, both between abundant spin, abundant rare spin, between rare spin, many varieties of interactions you can see. And we also came to the level of understanding the satellite spectrum. I explained what is a satellite spectrum. How do you extract information from the satellite spectrum? Especially in cases when proton NMR cannot give the information, like a single peak for a uh, molecule like disubstitute ethylenes, cis or trans doesn't matter. And because of symmetrically disubstitute, if we take, because of the molecular symmetry, you will get a single peak. But how do you know what is the coupling between them? There exists a coupling between two protons. How do you see that? So some cases in symmetric molecules, you will not be able to see the coupling information so easy. In which case, satellite spectrum analysis of the satellite provides you a lot of information. I took the example of Si2H6, where we found out one bond silicon proton coupling through satellites, two bond silicon proton coupling, and three bond proton proton coupling we could see. So this is what I wanted to say. Lot of information we can derive from others sometimes in the same proton spectrum, but if we carefully look at the analysis of the satellites. Let us continue further today. So this is a molecule. It is a perfectly symmetric molecule. Now there is a possibility there are two carbons here. Both carbons can be in the carbon 12 state. They exist as carbon 12. No problem. In which case you get only a single peak. That's precisely what we are seeing. You get only a single peak. But I know there is a coupling between these. How do I do that? As I just now explained to you, record the spectrum of this molecule. This I am now concentrating on which one? This is, I am looking at this carbon. So when I look at this carbon, of course we can also look for the OME peak later. I am not looking, this is the OME peak. We can also see the satellites in the OME peak. But I am concentrating only on this peak because I am interested in getting HS coupling. So this spectrum is enhanced with a larger vertical scale increased. Then you see some other things. Forget about this and this, what it comes because of some side bands, spinning side bands, etc. This is an impurity. See, when you want to see 1% of intensity of the peak, there's quite likely sometimes you might see impurities, other peaks. But apart from that, if you carefully analyze, you see there are two peaks here. What did we do? Why these two peaks are coming? Now, this is because of these are the spinnings. This is because now we are looking for carbon 13 of the molecule. Now I am considering this molecule where carbon 13 exists as C13. So carbon exists as C13. Okay, in this molecule, carbon here exists as C13. In which case, you have broken the symmetry. Instead of A2 spin, now it is A prime X. Like in the previous example, this center to this center gives you one bond. CH coupling, and separation of these two doublets gives you three bond proton coupling. Now I know whether it is cis or trans. I can analyze, I can get the coupling information very easily by just looking at the satellite spectrum. Okay, now look at the spectrum of 2-propanol. It's a very interesting molecule. We have CH and two CH3s. The CH3 is a doublet because it is coupled to CH proton. Okay. Now what we can do is we can enhance this intensity and see carbon 13 satellites here. Okay. These are the carbon 13 satellites. I can measure this and get the CH coupling. Of course, this HS coupling is already visible here itself, but you can see here also. In this case, the question of symmetry doesn't come because this is coupled to this equally and it is a doublet. This is another molecule, 1122 tetrachloromethane. In this molecule, now if you look at the protonated molecule, this is what it is. These are all some other impurities, etc. You don't worry. And this side satellite, these two, correspond to center of this to center of this is the CH coupling. And analysis of the doublet of the satellites gives you HH coupling. Very clear, right? So we were able to get CH coupling, HH coupling, all those things. All we have been doing is to analyze the satellites. So in the satellites, when you look at it, most often you will break the symmetry. As a consequence, some of this information which you don't get from 1D NMR, you can start getting. This is an example where 4-bond HH in the symmetric spectral system can be measured from the satellites. This is a spectrum which you enlarge in intensity. You see a doublet here and here. These doublet correspond to coupling between this proton to this proton. Because of symmetry, you don't see you will see as a single peak. But when you look at the satellites, this separation to this separation, center of this to center of this, gives you CH coupling, and this doublet separation gives you 4-bond proton-proton coupling, which is of the order of 14 Hertz. Remember, when I was mentioning to you about the strength of the couplings, homonuclear coupling, I did mention in this type of molecule, you can get long-range coupling even of the order of 20 Hertz also. Remember, I showed this particular example also, I think. Okay. So, we can extend this logic for more carbons present. How do you analyze this thing, everything? See, in a molecule like this, now I have a molecule like this, okay, and I have molecule where same molecule I have 2 protons here. You understand? In this molecule there are, okay, to make it simple, there are 3 CH2s. These 2 CH2s are here, and this CH2 peak is here. Now, if I analyze this proton spectrum, it gives a single peak. I enlarge with a higher intensity, you are going to get proton-carbon coupling. Okay, I am going to see proton-carbon coupling. Forget about other things, geminal coupling later. Now, if you come to this part, now if I break the symmetry by taking one of them into carbon-13, and other is in carbon-13, carbon-12 state if I assume, now you have broken the symmetry. Otherwise it would have been A2, B2 or A, okay, they are close in frequency, it is A2, B2. Now, because symmetry is broken, it is AA prime, BB prime and X. What is X? X is carbon-13. This is what you are going to see. It is AA prime, BB prime, X now. Now, analysis of this, you can take the spectrum. I did not give you an analysis of the AA prime, BB prime, X spin system. You can analyze, get all the coupling information. Okay. So now that is just for the satellite analysis. 1 or 2 examples I gave. You can see that satellite in various. When we go ahead, we can get number of such examples we come across. It need not be for coupling extraction, for some other purpose. You will see that. Now I'll give you an example of coupling between abundant spin and dilute spin. Dilute spin with low abundant spin, and I am looking at low abundant spin. So what I meant is, this already we discussed. If you carefully remember, in the carbon-13 NMR, did we not look at the carbon-fluorine coupling? Carbon is a low abundant nuclei. We detected carbon. We observed carbon-fluorine coupling, carbon-proton coupling, everything. The same example here I am giving. Coupling between abundant spin is proton or fluorine or phosphorus. That can couple to carbon, tin, mercury, etc. Then we can analyze that. But we are detecting carbon low abundant nuclei. So when you observe carbon-13 spectrum, we analyze all CF coupling, CH coupling, etc. Exactly same as this thing. In trifluoroacetic acid, we analyze this carbon-13 spectrum and got coupling between low abundant spin to high abundant spin, while I was detecting low abundant spin. In previous examples, I was detecting abundant spins. Okay, so same thing, this also we discussed. We analyze this. I don't want to see this again. There is no point in going again. Now this part we will see. This I did not explain. This is a simple molecule. I am looking at carbon-13 NMR, low abundant spin. Carbon now can couple to fluorine and also to proton. How do you simplify carbon spectrum? First thing, Do the broadband decoupling. Remove all proton-carbon couplings. So what are you left with? Only carbon-fluorine couplings. As I said, one bond CF coupling is quite large. This carbon, what is the pattern you expect? It must be a quartet. A large quartet, you see 1, 3, 3, 1 quartet. What is this one? This large quartet has to be this large quartet has to be this CF3. Okay. Now we can go ahead further. What is the next one? Next carbon is this. This carbon can also couple to fluorine. Again, it has to be a quartet. So how many bonds it is separated? This carbon to this fluorine, only 2 bonds. So it is coupling is much larger. You see a better quartet. May not be that resolved like this because this coupling is larger. This is less than 1 bond coupling, but here still you can see a beautiful quartet. What about this one? Next carbon 3. This is 1, 2, 3 bond coupling. This is much better. And 4 bond carbon coupling is here. This one. Very easily you can identify all the carbons based on their splitting pattern and the coupling strengths. Okay, so this what is the information which I wanted to tell you. Coupling between abundant and the dilute spin can be there. You can detect the dilute spin and observe lot of things. Now, coupling between carbon and fluorine also we saw, where both are spin half nuclei in a molecule like this. Okay, and okay, this will in a molecule like this. This I think we observed. We saw that I think. I explained to you proton decoupled carbon 13 spectrum of 2-fluoropyridine. I don't know, did I explain to you? If I decouple all the protons here, we get only CF coupling. One bond CF coupling is larger. This is that one, C2. And then 2 bond is next one, which is this carbon 3. This is much larger. Then 3 bond, 4 bond. So only based on the carbon fluorine couplings, you can start analyzing everything. Here, completely protons are decoupled. So 3 bond coupling of this, you observe 2 bond. Last, if you take this one, 1, 2, 3, 4 bond coupling, very weak. See, this has to be carbon 5. So depending upon the coupling strength, you can make the assignments. This is a classic molecule which I showed you in an example of multiplicity pattern called triplet of triplets when I was analyzing. I showed you this. Now, all fluorines of vinyl group are chemically are equal. All 3 fluorines are inequivalent. Each symmetric fluorine splits mercury equally. It means these 3 fluorines are not identical. These 3 fluorines are not identical. But interestingly, what is going to happen is this fluorine will split to this fluorine, and this fluorine will split to this mercury, both at an equal extent, same coupling strength. Similarly, these 2 fluorines will split this mercury by the same amount because coupling strength is same. Similarly, this coupling, these 2 fluorine coupled to this mercury again has the same strength. What I try to say is each of this symmetric fluorine, which are chemically equivalent like this and this, coupled to mercury by the same extent. So what happens then? If this is coupled to this and this is coupled to this by the same coupling strength, what pattern do you expect? I told you it has to be doublet of doublet, central 2 lines overlap, and you get a triplet. So that is the thing what you are going to observe. When you do that, see these 2 split mercury into a triplet like pattern like this. Only 3 peaks you get, nothing more. Further, then we have a coupling to another fluorine like this fluorine you take, and it will couple by the you can take this or that. No, you can couple to this one by the same extent. Each line of the triplet will become another triplet because coupling between 2' and Hg and 2 and Hg are same. So each chain of the triplet become another triplet. Now it is coupled to these two fluorines again with the same coupling strength. Now what will happen? Triplet of triplet become another triplet. Each chain of the triplet of triplet become triplet. So how many peaks you get? You get 27 peaks totally. Pattern is simple, right? This is called triplet of triplet of triplet of triplets of triplets. Okay, that is a pattern. You should call this as TTT, triplet of triplets. Similarly, now you can look for the selenium NMR. Abundance is only 7.6% here, spin half nuclei. Now you can look at, there are two selenium here. If you see any selenium at any given instant of time, like we saw carbon 13 satellite, symmetry is broken. When the symmetry is broken, you get selenium phosphorus coupling very easily. We can measure that. Okay. Of course, we can see coupling between phosphorus and carbon. In this simple molecule, you can see it. Now, phosphorus and can have 1 bond coupling to this, and 2 bond coupling to this, 3 bond coupling to all those things we can see very clearly. You can see that 1 bond carbon phosphorus coupling is seen. Of course, protons are decoupled here. Then 2 bond carbon phosphorus couplings are seen. But one thing you should see, these coupling strengths are much smaller, unlike in fluorine. Remember, 1 bond carbon fluorine was nearly 300 Hertz, but here it is much smaller, carbon phosphorus coupling. But nevertheless, you were able to analyze, you can see all those things, and clearly it could be this molecule or this molecule, both the type of molecule. You can make the assignment easily. This is another molecule where I am looking at the heteronuclear interaction. I am looking at the proton NMR spectrum of GeH4, germanium H4. Germanium has spin 9/2, but I am looking at proton, and germanium has 7.76% abundant. That's another thing. Assuming I am seeing only proton, of course germanium is low, small abundant. What is the largest peak I should get? Most intense peak? Only H4 peak. But if I see enhance the intensity larger, then I see germanium coupling to proton also seen as satellites. But why so many peaks? Why so many peaks? Now we know germanium spin is 9/2. This is the quadrupolar spin. I wanted to show you how quadrupolar spin splits and then gives the spectrum complex like this. This is 9/2 spin. And just put it in 2ni plus 1 equation. Now there is only one germanium is there. Spin is 9/2, and 2 into 1 into 9/2 plus 1, it gives 10 lines. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All 10 lines are seen here. Do you understand? So this is again satellites. When you analyze the satellite, you will get germanium proton couplings. So now coupling between spin-off and quadrupolar nuclei, this is what I said here. Now you can see this here again. Now quadrupolar spin I am considering as, of course this is abundant quadrupolar spin. This was satellite here. Now I am looking for the abundant. Abundant is deuterium, let us consider. What are the solvents normally we use? CdCl3, Cd2Cl2, Cd3Cl. But have we ever taken the spectrum of the pure solvents? Please try to take this spectrum of pure solvents. Then you will see they will get residual proton peaks here. If you take pure CdCl3 solvent, it will not be 100% pure. There will be some percentage of CaCl3 also. It will give you a peak at 7.2. Similarly, dichloromethane, not methane, what is it? Cd2Cl2. Dichloroethylene. Okay, whatever it is. I don't know the name of the molecule. You people know, chemistry people should know. This is, again, there is a residual proton coupling, and you are going to get protonated peaks. Similarly, Cd3Cl. Interestingly, these are several isotopomers. It can have Cd2, HCN, Cd3CN, CH, D2CN, CH2, all those things we can get. So all these isotopomers have residual proton peaks. Here CH2, CH2Cl2 that is present, CHDCl2, CD2Cl2, all the isotopomers will be there. The protonated compounds will give you residual proton peaks in the proton NMR. Now, this can, in such cases, you can also see coupling of carbon to deuterium or even proton to deuterium. Spin-off nuclei can couple to spin-1 nuclei like this. Now, I will take the example of some of these things and we will see how the pattern comes. Okay. Now, let us take any of these molecules containing single proton or single carbon. For example, CHCl3 or CDCl3. You will get carbon will give a single peak without any coupling to deuterium. I will not bring in coupling. Then you will get only single peak. Now we will bring in the coupling. Whether it is CHCl3 or CDCl3 doesn't matter. Okay. So now when I have a whether I'm looking for proton or carbon does not matter. I see proton P NMR or carbon 13 NMR. I get a single peak. Now I am bringing deuterium coupling into it. You understand? Whether it is CHCl3, when I look for carbon 13 or proton, does not matter. I get only single peak. Moment I bring in the coupling, it will be a triplet. Not triplet. Triplet is a wrong word because triplet is 1:2:1 in NMR jargon. It is 3 lines of equal intensity. Why 3 lines? Because deuterium has spin 1. When it is spin 1, you put it to that equation 2Ni plus 1, then simply you will understand how many peaks you are going to get. N is equal to 1, I is equal to 1. What you will get? 2 plus 1, 3 peaks. And of equal intensity. This is the advantage. In this case of deuterium, of course, we also have a Pascal triangle for this. I'll show you when we go ahead later. But please remember, when there is one single deuterium connect is coupled to either proton or carbon, you will get 3 peaks of equal intensity. 1:1 intensity. This is a classic example you see. In the carbon 13 NMR, when you take CDCl3, carbon 13 line will be 3 lines of equal intensity. It is due to 1 bond carbon deuterium coupling. You measure the separation between this and this. What are you going to get? Carbon deuterium J coupling. Okay, carbon deuterium J coupling can be easily measured by measuring these adjacent peaks separation. So you can very clearly see coupling between spin-off nuclei and spin-1 nuclei. Now, what happens when I take CD2Cl2 or CHD2? These are all the molecules. I'm looking for carbon here. I'm looking for proton here. Or carbon also, doesn't matter. Here also I can see carbon. One carbon is there. No problem. Now, what is the intensity pattern you get? How many peaks you are going to see? You'll understand. When a single proton or single carbon not coupled to deuterium is a single peak. When it is coupled to one deuterium, I just now said, you get 3 peaks of equal intensity. We got it. Now bring in another deuterium now. First it was coupled to single deuterium. Now there are 2 deuteriums. I have to take into account the intensity pattern when it is coupled to both. Remember, we worked out for CH2 group, CH3 group, multiplicity pattern, for equivalent spins. Exactly, for spin-1 nuclei, we can work out. We can get the diagram and the splitting pattern from the family tree approach. I can generate the intensity pattern when 2 deuteriums are coupled and 3 deuteriums are coupled to a spin-off nuclei. So now second deuterium, when it is coupled, each line is going to be a 3 lines of equal intensity. Okay, because the center line of the 3 lines always coincide with this. This center line of these 3 lines coincide with this, and this is again split into three lines. Central line will coincide. This will again split into three lines. Again, central line will coincide. Like you did for spin-half nuclei, I'm doing the same thing. I knew it will split into three lines of equal intensity. When I bring in the second deuterium, central line will remain same. There will be two lines on either side. Again here, central line remains same, two lines on either side. Because the coupling strengths are equal, they are magnetically equivalent. Now all these intensities will overlap. 1:1:1, 1:1:1, 1:1. Finally, what do we get? 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. This intensity we got. Remember, when I started analyzing the spectrum of CH2D2, I showed this for you. I said two deuteriums when coupled to proton, I said it will give rise to a pentet like this. 1, 2, 3, 2 intensity. That's how we generated now. You got the point, how to generate the splitting pattern when spin-half nuclei is coupled to spin-1 nuclei. Whether it is one spin or two chemically equivalent spins, it could be three also. Now we can generate for three also later. Okay. Now example of CD3CN or CD3OD. Let us see when two equivalent 2H is coupled to one proton or 113C. We got already this one 1, 2, 3 to 1 intensity. Now I am bringing in third deuterium. What will happen when I bring third deuterium? You must understand each of these lines will be like this. Each of this will be split into three lines of equal intensity. Okay, now each similar to this, we have three patterns. Final spectrum will be overlap of all those things, and it is 1, 3, 6, 7, 6, 3, 1. When two deuteriums are coupled, intensity pattern is 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. When three deuteriums are coupled, intensity is 1, 3, 6, 7, 6, 3, 1. This is the pattern you are going to get. This is a pentet. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is a septet. You understand? The spin-1 nuclei, when it is coupled to spin-half nuclei, if it is a single spin-1 nuclei, we have 1:1:1 intensity. If there are two spin-half nuclei, two spin-1 nuclei, 1, 2, 3 to 1 intensity. If there are three, 1, 3, 6, 7, 6, 3, 1. This is splitting pattern. And exactly that's what we get. Now we analyze the spectrum. You will understand what is really happening. Now I am looking for the carbon-13 spectrum of mixture of these three. CH2Cl2. First we will take that. What is the pattern you expect? I am looking for carbon-13 NMR. In a mixture of three different molecules. Don't get confused. The mixture of three different molecules. This CH2Cl2, if I consider carbon-13 NMR, what pattern you get? Of course, chlorine will not couple. It is a broad triplet, large triplet. 1, 2, 1 intensity. It is a triplet. Correct? CH2Cl2 will be a triplet. What about CHDCl2? Let us think carefully. Start thinking carefully now. In the case of CHDCl2, carbon will be split into this doublet because of this proton. It is a doublet. And each line of the doublet will become 1:1:1 3-line pattern. So you will get 6 lines because of CHDCl2. Because of coupling with H and D, this carbon will be 3 lines here, 3 lines here. They will get 6-line pattern. That's what it is. Okay, this separation, of course, I forgot to tell you, give you JCH. This is a chemical shift of this. Now, but look at this. Compared to this, it is not exact at the center. It appears peaks have moved to the right, is it not? You can calculate. This is exactly center. That means this is moved by certain amount. What is that certain amount? This is what is called isotopic shift in NMR. Remember, it's isotopic shift in NMR. Because one deuterium is substituted, carbon peak moved by this thing. Moved to the right by this much amount. This is always expressed in parts per billion. You understand? It is always expressed in parts per billion. Now coming to the situation of another molecule CD2Cl2. How many peaks you expect? Two deuteriums are coupled. We already worked out 1, 2, 3 to 1 pentate. This is what it is. See? So all the peaks are assigned. Carefully see now. Go back. I want to make you understand. First CH2Cl2 is a triplet. This separation gives you J coupling between carbon and proton, and this is a chemical shift. Second molecule CH3Cl2. Each line, it is a first is a large doublet because of proton coupling, and each doublet is three lines because of deuterium coupling, and there is a shift from the center because of isotopic shift. Next molecule is CD2Cl2. It gives us a pentate because these two deuterium are chemically equivalent. And if see, this is also shifted by certain amount. So what do you understand by that? If you measure this separation to this separation to this, you can find out isotopic shift with the addition of isotope. So with only one isotope is there, this much is shifted. If the two isotope is there, it is shifted by this much. If the third one is there, it can be shifted by some more. Another important point you should appreciate, when the heavy isotope is substituted, peaks are always shifting to the right. It is shifting to the right now. When the peaks, heavy isotope, one isotope, two isotope. When one heavy isotope is there, from here it shifted here. And two isotopes are there, from here it shifted here. So more the heavy isotopes are substituted, larger the shift of the spectrum to the high field. This is what you should understand. So we can get, and you can calculate per deuterium substitution, isotopic shift is 0.1 to 0.19 parts per million. ppm it's okay, it will be in ppm, large value. Now one more thing I can talk about coupling between two less abundant scenes and seeing that. What I can do is, okay, some more I have to tell you about other things about deuterium substitution, etc. It takes some time. So what I will do is, I will stop here. Today I was telling you something about interaction, heteronuclear interaction, the varieties of spins, spin after spin 1, spin 1 to spin after spins 9 by 2, how we get satellite analysis, how we get the information from the satellite spectrum, which you normally don't get from proton, varieties of things we understood. So in the next class, little bit more about this thing I will say, and then we'll take specific examples of nuclei with silicon, fluorine, carbon, selenium, and one or two examples, and literally we'll sit and analyze those spectra. Then you get a feel for how to analyze the spectra of varieties of nuclei. I cannot cover 110 elements, all spectra. I have covered major proton, carbon, and some of the heteronuclei like fluorine, etc. So some more interesting examples I will take in the next class. I'll try to do it quickly. I'll finish it. With that, then we'll start going into, after analyzing heteronuclear coupling, some more exciting topics like polarization transfer experiments, relaxation, spin decoupling, and inept experiment. All those things we'll talk. Then we'll jump to two-dimensional. So I'll stop for the day.